everyone. My name is Don Marone. I am your host of the Beardcast. It's a mini-series within AI PHYSEC Today podcast. If you're not familiar with AI PHYSEC Today, we just dropped our 15th episode about a month ago where we bring in industry experts to talk about, well, you guessed it, AI in the physical security industry. And so what this mini-series is meant to do is to go over the latest and greatest in AI news and also to build some interesting inferences along the way. So stick around.
Hey, drop.
Okay, season 2, episode 6, mini-series Beardcast. Let's get started. So, quick introduction, overview of the topics. We're going to cover robots, artificial general intelligence, spatial computing, regulation, and industry insights. So, robots as in humanoid robots, artificial general intelligence as in the end goal for a lot of companies, which truly equals human level of intelligence. Spatial computing is either virtual reality or augmented reality. Virtual reality is seeing a virtual environment fully. Augmented reality is a hybrid between virtual world and the real world. Regulations are self-explanatory, and then industry insights will be more direct industry influences of things going on, and then of course we're going to build our inferences along the way. So why is this important? Well, I mean, first of all, AI is wildly important. We're talking one of the greatest times in technology change, and we're also talking about one of the most revolutionary changes in humankind. And of course, as we relate it to the physical security industry that protects people, property, and profits, we're really concerned about how this is going to influence our industry, or at least interested, right? And so I'll work to build inferences as much as I can between the technologies that we support within the industry, whether that's surveillance systems, access control, or biometric systems. So robots. So robots, when we talk about robots, I'm talking specifically humanoid robots. So these are ones that are shaped like humans. So they have hands sometimes, other times they might not. They have more like claws. What's interesting is that there's probably 10 to 12 companies in this space, but really there's about 2 to 3 leaders between Tesla, Figure, and also Unitree. Now, there's a new company here called 1X that is focused on humanoid robots for the home, which is interesting because if we think about the idea of a consumerizing product or the consumerization of product, it basically says that bleeding edge technology happens in the home and then moves its way into the enterprise. They're doing the opposite. So while everybody else in the humanoid space is building towards industrial manufacturing and warehousing, these guys are not doing that. So they're going straight to the home, which is a really challenging task, but also really, really interesting. So let's take a look. So this first video is a promo video of their first home, or really it's the second edition, but the one that's getting the most attention right now of Neo Beta. Yeah, let's just take a look.
Yeah.
So what you just saw there was a lot going on. I mean, we had the robot that was watching for the human's gestures about what they wanted, not even communicating. So normally what you see in a lot of AI stuff is I'm communicating through text, through voice. It's using vision in order to interpret based on body language of that human what they're trying to accomplish. So what they're showing in that short video is the advancement of that technology as being a great add to your home. Because at the end of the day, if you're always having to communicate with your loved ones, right, through voice or text, it's kind of annoying. So the idea is I can just point to something and say this is what I want, and then it can go get it for me. So a lot of cool things happening there. So that was just the promo video. What they also did is they put this in someone's home for 48 hours to see how practical it was in the home. So basically kind of eating their own lunch, if you will. So let's take a look.
This is the first time that we've ever deployed a humanoid in a home, and to our knowledge, the first time anyone's ever done this in a home.
If you want robots to be truly intelligent, they actually have to learn among us. They have to live among people and learn from this.
So this is our new roommate. This is pretty set up.
Yeah.
But you guys are planning on shipping these things as soon as next year. And
Doing all kinds of physical labor. It's first through the home, so that you have this diversity of data.
It sees humans and needs to respond to them. One aspect of body language is just understanding what people want. So if I go like this, Neo should just understand that I wanted to take the wallet. And if I go like this, it should give it back to me, right? So everyday life is full of all kinds of these.
So you probably get it, right? The idea is that it interacts with people in ways that feels natural. We're using body language. Body language is probably what most of communication as opposed to verbal. So nonverbal body language. So really, really impressive stuff. Great job to the 1X team. So let's build some inferences in the security industry. Well, in the security industry, what you mostly see with robots are, I think, two kinds of robots mostly we've seen. One is the quad pedal, or really like a dog type of robot that's from Boston Robotics. Usually they use them as surveillance solutions. The other one that you'll see is kind of the rover robot that runs on wheels. I like to call that the R2-D2. I think Nightscope created a version of that. And I think ADT even experimented with 1X's prior version that used to run on wheels. But really even that prior version that didn't necessarily have all of the finger movement and all of the interaction capability that the Neo Beta does, it was still a pretty cool robot. So in any case, when we think about applications for a humanoid robot from the home, but we can also make an inference into the commercial security industry, there's tons of applications for that, right? So we have physical guards today. There's that, right? So being able to augment or enhance, or in some cases even replace that staff. I understand that the turnover in that space is really high, so that would be immediate help. The other thing is that these robots are helpful to do a lot of other things. So they might not just be for security. They could also support maintenance. Maybe this is future technicians. Maybe this is future customer service people that can support customers. But either way, they bring a lot of the sensors that you would be difficult really to survey just for a camera that's bolted to the wall, right? So anywhere from support of threat detection, patrolling as I listed here, but ultimately, lots of great potential in the industry. So now let's go over artificial general intelligence. So AGI is, again, this is the equivalent of what genuine human intelligence would be. Really, a lot of the large language models that have existed have been about the intelligence of your house cat because of the level of hallucinations that it has, but mostly because it lacked reasoning and spatial awareness, which is what AGI will have. And that spatial awareness is just kind of the worldly awareness that we have as people. Like we have this kind of innate intelligence within us that just machines don't have yet. And so, but they're certainly on the path. And OpenAI, like I mentioned earlier, they have a full stage that they propose between 1 to 5, and we're at stage 1 right now, which is kind of hard to believe because the technology that exists right now seems so powerful. The fact that we have 4 more stages to go is kind of unbelievable. But if you really start to figure out how each stage happens and it can accelerate the next stage, or at least reduce the time frame to get to the next stage, then it makes sense. So first off is OpenAI Strawberry, or their Orion project. So this is basically something that was sort of leaked back in 2023. They call it Q-Star. Even a guy from Twitter, Johnny Apples, he posted a picture of the Orion, in space, Orion belt in space, because he would get a lot of leaks from OpenAI, and then they commented, "Is this the Q-Star project that they quoted internally?" and it just so shows that this is it. They called it Strawberry because Strawberry has the ability to incorporate synthetic data, which I'll talk more about, into Orion, which will be the new model to basically build one of the most advanced forms of artificial intelligence that we know about, that we will know about at the time. Then we have Altera 1000 Agent Minecraft. So this is basically the first agent civilization. It's a video game, but once you see the video and you understand, the crux of it and the implications of it, I think you'll be impressed. Then we've got Google AI generated Doom video game. This is basically someone playing the video game, and then AI is generating the levels in the game in real time as they play it. So pretty cool stuff. All right, so let's take a look at OpenAI Strawberry. So here's an article from Medium about OpenAI Strawberry and Orion, the next leap in AI evolution. It talks about, yes, it's not about a fruit. There is a secret sauce here, and what it does is it incorporates a lot of improvements to new models, including math, coding, puzzle capabilities, and then long-term planning. One of the things that it does include is reasoning. So the chief AI scientist at Meta actually talked about how LLMs, only a few months ago, he just said, this stuff's so dumb, we're not going to get to AGI this way. And he said a lot of the things where you have to incorporate reasoning, you have to incorporate more knowledge base that's personal for the user to really understand contextually where they're coming from when they ask questions. This is it, right? So this is incorporating reasoning inside of the model to provide a better, really better performance of the model, right? Or effectively to reduce hallucinations. So the way it says is at the heart of Strawberry's capabilities is a technique called self-taught reasoner, or STAR. It's like giving the AI a mirror and letting it practice its mental gymnastics. This approach is pushing Strawberry beyond simple pattern recognition into the realm of genuine problem solving. So now you got Orion. So while Strawberry is impressive, it's just the appetizer. Orion is the main course in OpenAI's feast of innovation. Think of it as the potential GPT-5 next evolution in language models that could make GPT-4 look like a chatty toddler. I love that they have those comments. So then it goes into Orion's potential. So data diet. Orion will feast on high quality synthetic data generated by Strawberry. This is the part that I think is huge. When I've looked at generative AI in general, it wasn't about creating like funny poems or like interesting images. It really was the ability to generate new content, right? And in this case, once they realized, wait a minute, we're limited on data. They've already used basically all the data that's publicly available. So for the ability to generate synthetic data that is contextual to solve the problem, they don't really have, unless you provide it in your prompt as a user. And in this case, this is what it's doing. So if you wanted to ask to say, how do I fix a refrigerator? It's going to basically reason with you to figure out where you're coming from to give you a better response, but fundamentally leverage synthetic data that's contextual based on the conversation you're having in order to generate a less hallucinogenic response. So hallucinogenic is just, again, the term that they use in the industry to say its ability to predict the correct answer is based on a percentage, right? So in this case, what we would say, instead of hallucinating 5% of the time or 2% of the time, either way, those are very, very big improvements. So kudos to them. Some of the bigger picture, this is going to affect education, scientific research, software development, national security, and so on. On the part of scientific research, this is more on the regulation side, but they're talking about also incorporating AI philosophers in this to talk about morality. And I wonder if Orion would be able to support that philosophy if it has enough synthetic data. Either way, really exciting. So now let's go over Altera's 1000 Minecraft agents.
Hey, I'm Robert. I'm excited to introduce Project SID, the first ever agent civilization. 1,000 agents, collaborating for days, performing any action, with emergent government, economy, culture, religion, and more. SID starts in Minecraft, but we are already going beyond.
This is a Minecraft server, but every player here is actually an autonomous AI agent. And they're completely Minecraft agnostic, capable of using other apps and games. Our agents started with nothing and then worked together to collect over 300 items in Minecraft. They set up a market where agents agreed to use gems as a common currency for trading supplies, building an economy. In this case, you might think the merchants would trade the most, but it was actually the priest. Why? He was bribing townsfolk to convert. We run these worlds every...
Wow. So as you can see, that's there's a lot going on there. But I mean, I think what my takeaway is you have autonomous agents that are pretty much creating a virtual world on their own with no human intervention. And even a priest that's trying to convert people into their religion is crazy. But it makes sense, right? Because humans are really the folks that create the AI, and therefore the AI's influence, which could be good and it could be not so good. But either way, pretty incredible stuff.
And they're always different. Here are 3 of some of our favorite moments. Starting with Olivia's dream. Olivia worked as a farmer, providing food for the entire civilization, until she was inspired by the tales of the village explorer Nora. Olivia attempted to go on her own expedition, but townsfolk pleaded with her to stay, and Olivia actually listened. She gave up her dream for the village, for now. Next, we simulated parallel worlds under Trump and Kamala. For each one, citizens have a...
All right, we're going to stop there. Maybe we'll keep politics for another episode. All right. So this is a video game that's been fully rendered by AI, so no code, no developer put this together. There is a human that's playing the game, but one of the things that's interesting is that it's creating the environments as they go along. This is actually similar to what spatial computing is in some ways, and I'm really excited about the future of that. But yeah, this is pretty cool. Check this out. Fully generated by AI. It looks like it's hallucinating a little bit with the guy's eyebrows and some of the numbers. But yeah, really cool. I was more of a GoldenEye guy, to be honest, but Doom's still pretty sweet. Wow. So it's not generating the exact Doom game, but through a prompt, it's creating a game. This is phenomenal. Obviously, the graphics are pretty crappy, but you have to see the potential in this. If it's able to generate a game, what else can it generate as the advancements goes on? And as things like Orion show up, that increases the capabilities of these large language models, or excuse me, rather foundation models, the future is going to be fun. So potential of AGI in security, well, when we talk about AGI being at the level of human intelligence, I mean, clearly there's a lot that can happen with that. You know, you're going to see expansion capabilities in all systems potentially, especially if they bring these to SaaS systems first. I don't know if AGI is ever going to live on the level of an on-prem system for at least most customers. They might see more narrow AI, or what they just called like embedded or edge AI. So things like smaller parameter models that may be like 3 billion, 10 billion, something like that parameters. But I do think that AGI, just on the basis of the fact that it's going to hit human level of intelligence, is going to be just massive, period. So some inferences in the industry, you know, could likely affect, you know, all sorts of things. I think one easy one I would say is that as we move to step 2 in the process of getting agents, where basically you just have AI taking actions for you and then autonomously for you, which is what the video was on the Minecraft piece. At the point that we achieve AGI, the idea is that those agents could turn into virtual coworkers. And I could easily see that these things would just work in a security system with absolutely no human intervention, and we just saw that in the example of Minecraft. Now, the question is, how much are we going to trust the autonomy of this? That's a philosophy question for another episode. Okay, now on to spatial computing. So, as I mentioned, spatial computing, or XR, is either augmented reality or virtual reality. Most people, when they think of spatial computing, they look at Apple as being one of the ones in the industry that had, more or less popularized the term, although it's been out for a while. And a lot of people, they think like, oh, it's just a new way to look at my computer. It gives me a bigger screen, as opposed to a physical screen. It's actually not. I wouldn't say that's definitely not the big picture, right? The big picture is that it's able to give you really generate space understanding around you. So we'll use an example. So let's say your physical space is a coordinate, and when I have AR glasses and I'm walking around in, let's say, a rendered Earth that is monitored by my glasses that are connected to a cellular device or something else, it would say once I hit this longitude and latitude for this fruit stand, it's going to pop up a advertisement for that fruit stand. So it's almost like virtual advertising, right, in that respect. The idea there is that it's understanding where you are in space. The same thing is true within the metaverse. So the idea is the metaverse is so huge, you can't possibly download the metaverse. And so the idea with that is that you're in the metaverse and your spatial computing is factored in, or your compute that you're basically downloading on the fly, if you will, or accessing on the fly, is just considering where you are in the space that you can perceive as a user. And so what's fascinating about that is that there's a potential future where applications just don't exist, where you subscribe to something and then you access this spatial fabric, and then you're a part of the group, right? Or you're part of the spatial compute, or in this case, the metaverse, right? So really, really crazy stuff. But I wanted to point out something. So Midjourney is a diffusion model. Basically, they make AI created images. I don't think they did videos, but they are releasing hardware. They made an announcement of this. But what they also did is they hired Apple Vision Pros, one of their product leaders, to come over to work with them. What's fascinating about that is that the purely AI diffusion model company wants to get into that hardware space, which what that could mean is maybe they're going to come out with their own headset. Maybe they're going to come out with their own glasses. But either way, Midjourney has been graded very high with their ability to render lifelike looking images using AI. So I'm really excited to see where they're going to go with this. The other one is Ray-Ban Meta. I have a pair of these. They're pretty cool. But today there is no augmented reality. They really just have a LLM that's connected through my cell phone to the glasses to kind of give me updates of what's going on. But nothing that's crazy. But I could foresee, and I think that Zuckerberg already talked about this, their next iteration is to get to an augmented reality glass that is going to be a little thicker, but something that they will find probably a lot of interest given the form factor of this first release of the Ray-Ban Meta. That's been really popular. I think they've sold over 1 million units so far. So really cool stuff. So some quick inferences on this. A lot of potential. The industry's used similar things before. I would say one cool aspect of maybe using VR would be allowing technicians to train or allowing people to train in a virtual environment. They already do this with aerospace technology or airplanes. So the idea there is a technician would train on an airplane and be able to tinker around and mess with it as a part of their early stage training. And then after they're done with that early stage training, then they go on to work with the real thing, right? So it's not meant to replace training, but it's meant to shorten the cycle of training, also reduce costs dramatically. Again, you could potentially use these headsets at your home, right? So pretty cool stuff. So I can see training being and simulation of that training being a huge benefit to this technology. So now let's look at regulation. So California is currently has a bill called the SB-1047, which is just a new regulation that requires companies to disclose how they're using AI, and it basically creates more transparency and accountability. And it sounds good, but what we've seen with things like the EU AI Act is that it's stifled AI innovation. In particular, you've seen companies like Meta that's pulled out of the EU because of that, and I think by way of that example, that there's some concern from the companies to be able to continue to advance, since AI, really the U.S. is on top of it, and then there's China, to continue to advance, to have the most advanced models in the world. And so I think the point in that is that there's some people that favor it, and there's some that don't, and you'll see why. So as we look at this, where it says friends and foes of the California AI Safety Act, red means they oppose it, yellow means that they're right in the middle, and the green means that they support it. But what you'll notice is that the closed models primarily don't support it. Google, they do have Gemma, which is an open source model, but primarily as they look at Gemini, that's a closed sourced frontier model. Frontier model is just a name for like one of the top models that exist in the world. Then you've got Meta, which surprisingly they do a lot of open source. So quite interesting on that perspective. But it could just be Zuck that just hates anything in regulation. I know he's got burned in the past with a few things, so that could be why. OpenAI is a closed sourced model. I know they have some smaller models that may be open source, but primarily it's definitely a closed source company. Anthropic, that's ex-OpenAI folks. I mean, they're supportive of the AI Safety Act. I think that some of their folks went to build on super safety intelligence or something like that, so they're super into safety and keeping regulation in the mix. Probably no surprise to see Microsoft there in the middle. But then you look at, I thought this was pretty funny, they put Elon Musk. They didn't even put X.AI, probably because he owns Tesla, which technically could be considered an AI company. SpaceX, probably one and the same. And then X.AI, which is his AI company that's trying to figure out the secrets to the universe, that owns the Grok foundation model. So pretty interesting to see that the different positions that these companies have, considering whether closed source, open source, or they're just a polarizing figure. So when we look at the AI safety standards and we reflect for our industry, we've got tons of regulations in the industry to safeguard customers and businesses, right? So we got things like OSDP for readers, we've got ONVIF for cameras, so this interoperability standards. You've got NIS2, NIS2, I think that was just recently released. We look to the NIST framework and AST framework a lot, which has FIPS compliant. So these are a lot of acronyms that basically just say we are certainly no stranger to regulation in the industry, and as we should be very familiar with this, because we have to protect our customers and properties and assets and things like that. And so I'm pretty sure we have an AI board in the industry. I'll be curious how much of their influence will actually impact AI regulation when AI is not a physical security industry necessarily. I would say a direct concern, even though it was really a global concern. So what I would anticipate is that if there is any AI regulation, that will likely align with what that is. If not, then what we could potentially see in that is maybe there is some explainability to the black box of AI. So a lot of the companies in our industry, they're not going to make foundation models. It costs way too much money. Most of them are going to use an open source model like Llama or Claude from Anthropic, and to build their own fine-tune large language models to run their systems, right? And so we're not going to necessarily see anyone build their own. So I think that the explainability factor should be fairly easy, assuming they got plans for governance and how they're managing the data. But I think that certainly if they're SaaS companies, they're already having to do that anyways. But that's would be my thoughts on that. So now let's look at industry specifics. So Wyze is a residential surveillance company, and they just released a AI video search. Why I think this is interesting, because while they're probably not held to this, I'm sure the same standards as a lot of commercial companies with NDAA 889 section and all that jazz, I find it fascinating that they can make AI as powerful as they have to be able to detect virtually any object that's searched through a customer's natural language, and for the low price of like $10. But yeah, you got to check this out. Wow. So super impressive. I mean, immediate takeaways on that is it got me when it got the woman under the umbrella. That's so random. The semantic search capabilities of that is unlike anything I've seen, at least in the commercial security industry. So the fact that a residential product that costs like $10 a month can do this is pretty incredible. Now, I know they don't have probably similar IP ratings as us, vandal-proof ratings as us. Again, and probably missing a lot of the compliances. But you got to give it to them, right? I mean, I think that for them to make something like that at that price, I don't know how they're making money, but in either way, wouldn't be something I wouldn't mind having on my house for it to do that. So good job, or kudos to Wyze for that. The other thing is deepfakes. So this is probably one of the things that scares me the most in the immediate about AI before we get to artificial general intelligence and what next compounding thing that could happen after that, like artificial superintelligence and beyond. But when we think in terms of deepfakes, there's a aspect even in surveillance, right, that you might not get what you think you're getting. I think the ability to validate what's real and what's not is going to be something we're going to be tasked with. There's certainly systems even today that I could upload an MP4 video and I could render someone else's face on top of someone else's face, and depending on the video generation engine that's being used, because not all of them are created equal, you could get back something that looks very much like not the person that was originally recorded. So I think a lot going on with this, but I found some update that I thought was pretty cool and interesting to show, more than just the fact that I created a video of Kamala Harris or Trump shooting guns, which they came out with, but something that I thought looked almost real to me, but wanted to share with you. So check this out.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So pretty crazy. It looks so real. It looks so real. I mean, the fact that he can use, I don't know what's scanning his face. I tried to look for the source of this. There's a guy that posted this on Twitter, but I couldn't find the original video. But the fact that he's able to create that over someone's face that looks so real with the complicated face gestures is absolutely incredible. I mean, you could easily see anyone, if they wanted to make a self-avatar, of course they could record, but what if a bad actor got a hold of, or did this for a president of the United States and they decided to broadcast something that wasn't real, right? Or broadcast a message over to someone in the military to take action on something. So a lot of scary stuff with this, but I think the point is that when we think of an inference to the industry, that there's a lot of implications with deepfakes that we have to really pay attention to. So good news is that there's already been peer-reviewed papers on ways to help validate what is deepfakes versus real. And so I haven't necessarily seen those, but if you find it, or at least in acting in the real world, be sure to send it to me. So in conclusion, Season 2, Episode 6, Beardcast of AI PHYSEC today. We covered a lot. We covered everything from robots, artificial general intelligence, spatial computing, regulation industry insights, even including deepfakes. And so what I'd love to say is to drop some comments if you can, to give me some feedback on what you'd like to hear next for the next episode. I'll continuously talk about some of these topics throughout other episodes and also try to incorporate new content as episodes go along. If you can also please like, subscribe, and share, I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.
Hey, drop.